Pioneer statistics, for statistical conclusions, you need a large sample size. So I would really appreciate it to take 7 to 10 minutes to complete the inside specific. I don't think the link is.
The link. Oh, it's just starting. Yeah.
We appreciate participation.
Yeah. All right, and if you just came in, we'll repeat the whole spiel in 3 minutes. So you're not missing out, but the survey links are there. No, it's in the slides. So just, yeah. No, so yeah, so just go to the court slides. The links are there. So week 7. Oh, you don't? What about now? Okay, cool. Thank you.
AA batteries?
Oh, the link. Which link doesn't work? Or it works for me. Does it not work for everyone? Sorry, so that's the mic. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that is there anyone who I mean it's not I don't own it, right? So
I don't respond.
can like maybe it's your maybe it's like a URL issue, I think. So let's try to shorten the URL. So sorry, can I see give me a so yeah, that's organization. So the links work, but the organization is not enabled for your current account. Do the other one in the meantime, please. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yes. Sorry. Sorry. Oh, okay. Now it's yeah. All right, so the people who just came in, so there is one link that's ESC180 specific to that work. Please fill that one out. And we are working on the other one, I guess. And we are at 4:10, so I'll repeat the spiel as promised. So your feedback is important to us. Please stay on the call after we hang out. So so please use both links. So there is both an ESC180 specific survey that I asked you to fill out in order to make the course better for you and more enjoyable and more productive. There's also an ESC-wide survey that we're folding into this period of about 15 minutes that we're gonna do. So is the link working?
No, I've changed the link, so.
Okay.
Can someone try the ESC-wide link again, see if it works? It works?
All right, okay, that works as well. And Kimia will again introduce the ESC-wide one if you want to be on camera for the YouTube people.
Okay, one more time. My name is Kimia. I'm the senior officer, student and program experience in engineering science. So every semester or every year, we do a survey and site wide open to get student perceptions on any challenges, courses, what goes well, what's not going well. And as I mentioned, we do take your feedback seriously, and we've used student feedback in the past to change course sequences, course content, or whenever we want to introduce a new major. So we would really appreciate it if you can all participate, because we need a large sample size to make any decisions. Thank you.
All right, and I want to say with respect to sample size, so kind of also someone who did statistics, it's not just about sample size, it's also about if you don't say what's wrong, we can't help you. So, and if there is a group of people, all of whom thinks the same thing, but all of whom also tends not to respond to surveys, well, we're gonna ignore you. So don't be that group. So since I think everyone who's not chosen to study for calculus today is here, so this is kind of the plan for today. You're doing the survey, so we're doing the survey for about 12 more minutes. The midterm is not today, however, it is soon, 1 hour, 45 minutes. So the previous midterms and solutions are available on the front page. I also did solution sessions over the weekend, which are over here. So you can go there. There's also solutions. I marked out the questions of the midterm, which you cannot yet do. Everything up until, Wednesday is on the midterm potentially, but on Wednesday, I'm not going to introduce any new knowledge, although most of this course is not about knowledge, it's about skill. And certainly we're going to try to reinforce your skills on Wednesday as well. There is no lab next week because you're probably having enough of me and ESC103 anyways. We'll then do odds and ends about lists and strings. So you'll be ready to do the coding bat exercises, which are worth 0.5 points. It's really not a lot of time if you don't need it. If you do need it, then you should spend the time. And then we're going to do eval and exec, which I'll tell you about it. And maybe today, maybe next time, we'll try to do all passwords without having to do the nested loops. The people who just came in, hello, good choice. Nobody cares about calculus anyways. So there is surveys that are ESC180 specific and also ANSI-wide. Please do both. Your feedback is important to us. I'll guess we'll wait until things become very loud, because that would mean that people are not doing the survey anymore. Okay, the people who just came in. So the first slide in the lecture slides is the plan for today, and then what we're doing right now for the next 10 minutes is filling out the ESC180 specific and the ANSI-wide survey. I'll shut up now. You've probably heard enough of it. I know you probably don't need to say that.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Can I see if there has been any response? Can I see if there has been any responses?
Receive, oh, do you want, I mean, do you want to check? Yeah, so do you want to stop sharing? Stop sharing for a second. Oh, we'll lose the people on YouTube for, we'll keep the video. So, yeah, I mean, do whatever.
Oh, this. Yours maybe
Yeah.
doesn't show if there has
Yeah,
been.
because it's like not owned by me. So like you can open like an incognito window if you like.
Oh,
And then, yeah.
It works.
I mean, if not, they'll complain on the next survey. It's okay.
How do I go back to your slides? Okay. It's not.
It's on the shop. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I mean, worst case, we do it again on Friday. It's okay.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Right.
Okay, so there's 40 hours in class, 90 hours. You could just take a study. 2-year program. 30 hours. It's more than 15 for every single. I said that you had to be skilled for their body. They get out of these. I'm trying to. Yes. Thank you. Actually, none of these. Describe one. You should actually not say that. I don't think you're actually going to get that. Yes. My computer is doing your. I'm just being no, but he's a nice. Yeah, no, I. I'm just like.
All right, who needs more time? Okay, I'll 2 more minutes and then you do the rest during synth. This is admittedly more questions than you would get on a calc midterm, but they're mostly multiple choice. So. Okay, sorry. So I do want to do it kind of like reasonably. So who is done with the ESC180 survey? Thank you. Who is more than halfway through the other one? Most people. Okay, so, but not everyone. So two more minutes. One. Yeah. Okay. So we're doing 2 more minutes of the survey. 1.5. All right, it's 4:28. You've obviously started the survey. If you haven't completed it, I'm sure you're committed by now. So please do complete it. One thing I didn't find it out just now, but like when you like sit on the stage at the convocation ceremony, you have to like sit there for like 2 hours and smile the entire time, and that's kind of how I'm feeling now in a kind of micro kind of version. I do bring a mask, that helps a lot, but you also get a repetitive strain injury from clapping all the time. So anyways, okay, all right. So I want to do the things here. So a few odds and ends about lists and strings. So the coding math exercises are going to go up next morning. So there's really not a lot of them. If you do spend a lot of time on them, that's time well spent, but I think probably it's going to be okay. We're then going to do a cool thing around treating code as data. You'll see how that goes. And that'll lead us into doing, again, the enumeration of all possible passwords or all possible strings in general, without having to type out the nested loops. So that's going to be exciting, but probably on Friday. We'll see. So I want to go back to nested lists, and some of you had this kind of thing in the lab already. Some of you have not. So what I want to do is I want to take this kind of list and I want to print the elements out one by one. So, okay. So, okay. So first of all, I'll just reformat it like this because it sometimes helps you to think about it as if it were a matrix rather than a list of elements. So what I want is I want to print basically E and then N and then G and then S and so on. Okay, so what does it mean? It's the same thing that we've done several times already, which is print out L at 0 at 0, and then also L at 0 at 1, right? So this element of the matrix, and then this element of the matrix, and then L at 0 at 2, and then L at 1 at 0, and so on, right? So another way of thinking about it is we want to print all possible, I know. Yeah, we want to print all possible entries in L viewed as a matrix. Of course, in a particular order. Okay. So how to do it? Well, again, let's just think about it's like has a mind of its own. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. So how do we do it? Let me first print the coordinates. So the locations in this matrix L, or if you like, the list L, right? So how to do it? Well, I'll say, for I in range, so this would be length of L. So that means that I is going to be 0 and 1 because L has two elements, this list and then this list. And then I'll say for J in range, length of L at 0. And that means that J is going to be 0, 1, 2. And that's because L at 0 is this list and it has 3 elements. And what I'm going to do here is, at first, I'm just going to print I and J. We call it. So I'm going to dispense today with if name equals main. That's fine as well. It works. So did not say L. So that printed all the possible coordinates in this matrix L, right? Close this. Let me remove my face. Okay, that's great. All right, let me check what Discord is saying. Okay, that I believe has been fixed. And we're back here. Okay, so one way to think about it is we're printing all the possible combinations of I and J, where I goes 0, 1, and J goes 0, 1, 2. That's the kind of thing that we've done several times already. Another way of thinking about it is we're saying I is the row number, so 0, 1. And at first, we're going to go through row 0 and column 0, 1, 2. And then J is the column number, and the column number goes 0, 1, 2, as we said. Does that make sense? Questions about this? Who is fine? Who is not fine with this? Okay, why not? So the logic, I think you said the logic of for J in range length of L at 0. So length of L at 0, what is it? Well, L at 0 is this kind of guy, right? It's the first element of L, which we can think of as the first row of L if we're thinking of L as a matrix. And we're saying, well, L is going to be, L at 0, sorry, has 3 elements, and we want J to be 0, 1, 2. Okay. So, all right. If one thing that you might be thinking of is like, hey, like why is it L at 0 and not, L at I? And the answer is could be if we consider L to not necessarily have elements that all have the same number of elements in them. Okay, but we're thinking of L as, a square matrix. I think there might be a correlation between me touching it and it's being unhappy. Okay, yeah, it's definitely it. Okay, let me try something. This is what you call debugging, if you haven't heard of it. Okay. Wrong thing. Okay, let's see how that goes. All right. So now all I want to do is I want to say, well, I think of those as coordinates now, and then I'll say, coordinates ij, and then I'll just add value, and the value would be L at I at j. Make sense? So now that we know how to do this, we can also say, well, like, what if I want to print it like column-wise? What if I want, E and then S and N and then C and G and then I? How do I modify, how do I modify this to get that? Yeah, you had an idea? No? Okay, anyone? So I want to print out all the elements, but in a different order. I want E and then N, S and then N and then C and then G and then I. Okay, so let's try to list out what that would look like. So this was the order for N psi. And then what's the order for ES and C and so on? So E and then S, and then N, and then C, and then G, and then I. So basically, you know, first column, second column, third column, and so on. What would that correspond to? So that would be L at 0 at 0, and then it would be L at 1 at 0, and then it would be L at 0 at 1, and then L at 1 at 1, and then what? Anyone? I hear 0, 2, that's correct. And then L at 1 at 2. Right? So what's the pattern here? So it goes like 0, and then the column becomes 1, and then the column becomes 2. And the row now alternates. That's the opposite of what happened before. Does this give anyone ideas for how to do this? Yes. Yes, thank you. So switch I and J was the answer, right? So instead of going, so the technical term for this is column major. You don't need to know it, but so there's like row major and column major. This would be column major, like column major order. And all we need to do is just switch the order in which I and J increment. So I'll just switch this to here, and I'll be done. All right. So what's happening here? I'm now saying for J in range length of L at 0. So that means that first J is going to be 0, and then I'm going to go I is 0, 1. And then J is going to be 1, and I'm going to say I is 0, 1. And then J is going to be 2, and I'm going to say I is 0, 1. Let's write it out. And that's exactly what I want, right? Does that make sense to everyone? Questions? Does this not make sense to someone? People are thinking about calculus. Okay, so let's try. Yeah.
We're looping through the column index first, and then we're looping through the
Well, so you said looping through the column index first and then the row index, and that's about right, but we're kind of doing it simultaneously, right? Because we're saying we're looping here over the index of the column, and then like inside, like when we're in column 0, we're looping over the rows, and then when we're in column 1, we're looping over the rows. So that might be a more precise way of talking about it. Okay. Who is not fine with this and why? All right. Okay, so that's kind of a neat little trick, but I think it's also good to just think about it deeply to kind of see, okay, like that actually makes sense. Usually this kind of trick, of course, would not work, but sometimes it does, and this is one situation where it does. And of course, it's like not just a trick, like sometimes you want row major, sometimes you want column major. All right. So that was that. Let's do append and extend. So lists, so far we had lists that are a fixed size. Sometimes you want to append to the list, meaning add an element to the list. The way you do it is l.append. The slideshow doesn't, technology does not cooperate today. Okay, so that's going to be what you see. So what does append mean? Just, you know, if the list used to be 1, 2, 3, and you say append 6, 6 gets appended, meaning added to the end at the end of the list. So it becomes 1, 2, 3, 6. Extend, you should think about it as a repeated kind of append. So if I say l.extend 6, 7, that means append 6 and then append 7. The distinction between append and extend, you can see in the last line. So if you do L dot append 10, 11, what gets appended is the list 10, 11, so that the last element of L becomes the list 10, 11, rather than, 10 and then 11 as elements. That's it. Questions? Like not complicated. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about strings. Now it works. Strings work in many ways in the same way that lists do. So you can, for example, say for C in A, B, C, the string, as opposed to the list that contains A and B and C, and it would still work. It would print A and then B and then C. You can do what's called F strings. So F stands for formatting. And that's a way of constructing strings more easily than what we had done so far, which is just use plus. So if, for example, the value of X is 42, you can say, I use an F string. So that means just that you have the letter F before the quotes. Could be single quotes or double quotes, or triple, I suppose. And then inside the curly braces, you put in the variable name X. So 42, I know how many people know about 42 actually. I know. Actually, not that well. It's in Wikipedia. It's on Wikipedia. You can read about it in your copier's free time that you haven't reported on the ANSI forum. It's a novel called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and in there, well, you can read about it. 42 is like the answer to life, the universe, and everything, or something like that. It's like a very common example in programming, just because programmers like this novel, I suppose. I've read it a little bit, but it's good. So that's how F strings work. All right. Questions about this? Again, kind of not complicated. You just get to substitute in whichever value you want into the string. Why is this good? Well, because the only other way that we saw to put a number into a string, like we had a way to do it, right? So it was, the answer to, Q2 on calculus tomorrow is, and then what you would have to say, it's very awkward, is plus strx, much more awkward than what you'll do tomorrow, right? So, and then s would be this kind of thing. You could not have done it if you just did plus x, because you cannot add a string and an integer. So you would have to convert the integer to a string first, and then you can concatenate it. Whereas with something like this, that's easy and convenient, almost like writing a calculus test. I'll stop with the jokes. I know it's a sensitive subject, probably. Okay. Question or stretching? Okay. So, all right. Yeah, that's like, there's like not really much to it. So now I want to spend a little bit of time talking about exec and eval. And if you haven't had Python before, especially like maybe even if you have, and that's like very few, that's like not the majority of people by far here, you probably would not have seen it. And certainly if you did Java or something, you have not seen it. And it's like extremely cool. So in Python, what you can do is treat text as if it were code and just run it. So I can do something like code is equal to print hi. And that's a string like any other string, but it also happens to be Python code. And I can execute it by saying exec code. And that would just print hi, because it would just run this as if it were part of the program. Make sense? So far, this is not interesting because who cares? I could have just typed print hi directly and saved myself some quotes. But you can actually construct the string and then run it, which means that you can use a for loop in order to construct a Python program that you then run. So let's do kind of a slightly useless example. So I'll just construct code like this. So initially it's going to be like this. And then I'm going to say for I in range, let's say 100. I'll say code plus equals. And now I'll just add a print statement to it. So I'll say and then here I'll say print I like so. So this part is going to be 0 and then 1 and then 2 and then 3 and so on up to 99. And then I need to separate those print instructions somehow. So I'll separate them with a semicolon. You can do this in Python. So if you say print 1 and then you say print 2, that would run. So it's as if it's on the new one. Okay, so if I run this, code will look like this. So I made a Python program. I can now run the Python program if I so choose, right? So I can say exec code. And the program that I just made using Python is now running. Cool. Cool. So, okay. So this is just running things. I can also evaluate things. So the distinction is exec code just runs the instructions. It does not return a value or anything. If I say something like eval and then I have valid Python code with a value, it'll just compute it. So I can say eval 1, 2, 3 plus 4, 5, 6. And this is a string that happens to be valid in Python. And if I run it, it'll tell me how much 1, 2, 3 plus 4, 5, 6 is. So if I do exec of that, what will happen, do you think? Anyone? Hint, it's yes. It won't even print, right? So like the answer is nothing. And that's because like if you tell Python 1, 2, 3 plus 4, 5, 6, so you're very close, right? So if you tell Python 1, 2, 3 plus 4, 5, 6, what will Python say? It'll say, okay. You didn't tell me to do anything, so I'm not going to do anything. Yes.
You did print exact 1, 2, 3, but it's still in box.
I think it would say none because I think the value of exec is none. But to be honest, that's like not the usual. Yeah. So that's not the usual thing that you would do. If you said print eval like that is what would print the value. Make sense? All right. Questions about this? All right. So this brings me to my master plan, which is, let's say that I want to print, 50, let's not go crazy here, 25 letter patterns over an alphabet. And of course, I could type in 25 for loops that are nested within each other. That's what we know so far. But now what we can do, and admittedly, this is a slightly silly way of doing it, but what we can do is construct the nested loop using a for loop and then run it using exec. So what I want to do is I want to make Python write the Python program that I will then execute. Make sense? So I'll give a go to starting it. I'm not sure if we're going to finish today or on Friday. So what kind of thing do I want? So I want the code to look like this. So one thing to remind you of or to tell you is so \n means new line. So if you print something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that would print 1, 2, 3, and then new line, and then 4, 5, 6. So what kind of string do I want to see? Well, this kind of string, I'll write it in triple quotes, and then I'll display it. So I want to say for car1 in alphabet. Let me do it like this. And then for car2 in alphabet. And then if it's just 2 characters, I'll say car1 plus car2. So that would be the code. If I read it in, so highlight, Alt Enter. Looks like this. Right? So this is going to be new line because I started with an empty line, and then for car1 in alphabet, new line, there's 2 spaces here, and then for car2 in alphabet, new line, and so on. If I print it, it will look nicely like code. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that I want to construct. Does that make sense? Question so far? So like this, but 25 times. So how do I do that? Well, I use a for loop for I in range 25, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to say code initially is nothing. And I'm constructing this kind of thing. So I'm going to say for I in range, for now, I'll just say 25. I will then change it to n so that it's more general. So what do I want to have here? So I want to have for car, the digit changes, and then in alphabet, and then column new line. And then I also need spaces. So, okay. So I'll define the variable line, and that's going to be an f string, and that's going to be for car, and that's going to be car I, right? So car 0, car 1, car 2, and so on. And alphabet, column, new line. I also want to add some, I also want to add some spaces. How many spaces? Well, 0 the first time, and then 1 the next time, 2 the next time, and so on. So that would be space times I, and then plus. Right? Yes. Yeah, because the first time there is no space before the 4. And then the next time I need 1. And then the next time I need 2. Yeah, exactly. So let me do like one more so that it's maybe clearer. Right? So here I'll do, so as I type in, I just do several, but here I'll do like 1 and then 2 and then 3 and so on. Is that making sense to people? Questions? All right. Let's see where we got so far if we keep computing the line and adding the line to the code. Okay, I had a lot of junk over here. Control R to comment out. We will, by the way, switch to VS Code at some point. The issue is that what I see in the lab and what the TAs tell me is that people do not know how to use VS Code well. So, and VS Code is kind of brittle. So at first we want to make you debug in Paizo, and then we'll teach you debug in VS Code, which is more brittle but more useful if you know how to use it. So okay, so this is what code looks like. Not very pretty, but if I print it, and if I pull this back, make sense? So, okay, so we're almost there, but we need the print. Yes. I just pulled it to the left because like if I pull it here, it's, yeah. Okay. So, okay. 2 minutes. I will try to use those 2 minutes productively, but maybe I'll need to explain on Friday as well. So what do we want to do? We want to construct the print statement, which is just print car0 plus car1 plus car2 and so on, right? Okay. So line, we will start with line being equal to what? Space times I, right? Because we had 24 spaces before, and now we want 25 spaces for the print statement. And now what I want to do is add print, open parentheses to the line. So far, so good. Now I want car0, car1, car2, and so on. So for I in range 25, line plus equals print f string car I, line plus equals close parentheses, and I'm done. I just add the line to the code. Oh, that is what I meant. If I print the code, oh, it's just car0, car1, so I forgot the pluses, right? So I'll say plus. So now if I print the code, that looks like this. So the only problem is at the end I have plus and then nothing because after car24 there is nothing, but that's okay. What I'll do is I'll just add the empty string. I'm allowed to do that. So now that's going to look like this. And now what I said is car24 plus, and then in a hacky kind of way, I just added nothing. And I hope this runs. Let's see. Oh, indentation error. Expected an indented block after 4. I think if I add the new line very fast, if that doesn't work, I'll let you go. Okay. The print here is like this. So that was I plus 1. Thank you very much. 1 minute over time, but I believe that's going to work. Too many statically. Well, okay, I'll just do 12. You, oh. Alphabet. Sorry about that. Ah. All right, good luck tomorrow. I will see you on Friday when you don't have anything to worry about anymore. Bye. Except like small stuff.
We also remember in Python, the indentation takes like 4 space. why
No,
is that?
it doesn't have to be four in
Oh,
particular,
so
it can
it
be
is-
anything,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So usually like, yeah, like 4 spaces or like before
Okay.
people used to do tabs as well,
I see.
but it can be anything, yeah, as long as it, yeah.
So I have a rowing race on Thursday.
Okay,
I'm leaving on Thursday. for
okay,
it. I'm gonna submit something to
sure.
inside.
So
but-
what, so some kind of like sporting thing?
Yes.
So, so just like, I would suggest that you talk to the advisor before to clear it beforehand, if you haven't yet,
Yeah, that's what I'm going to
yeah.
do. I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is-
Yeah, I mean, there's 300 people, honestly, I'm not worried about it, joking. But yeah, good luck with the race, yeah.